Okay, I'm going to call the meeting to order. And we're going to start with a pledge, if you desire, and then we'll have a moment of silence to collect your thoughts. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America, and to the republic which stands one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. These expensive things.
Okay, the first thing on the agenda is to amend the agenda, if I hear any interest in that.
On the agenda, it only says the January 15th minutes, if you want to put the 8th on there.
Oops. January 8th. Okay. So that's the next order of business. We need to approve the January 8th minutes as well as the January 18th minutes. Is there a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the minutes.
Do you have any discussion? Emma, you or Ryan have any discussion items on the minutes from the 8th and the 15th?
No, I do not.
You do not. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. I vote aye.
Aye.
You guys, Ryan?
Aye.
Emma, yes. Ryan, how do you vote?
Aye.
Oh, did someone second the motion?
I thought you did.
I don't know.
I second the motion.
Okay, all right, so Ryan. All right, so we've approved the minutes from the 8th and the 15th. Next item is public comments for items not on the agenda. Does anyone have any public comments? Okay. New business, discuss the municipal budget. I'm going to let Tom take over from here.
All right, and like last week, we can start any comments from last week's discussion. Okay, then the bullet points we have: development office, that's events and things like that, administration, municipal insurance, and we have the folks involved with the WIC that falls under the administration budget. And since they're here and anxious to talk about all the good works, I'd suggest we let them go first and take it from there. Let's see here in order. Why don't a few of you sit up here at the vacant select board seats and oh no, there's a whole gaggle back there.
Then there's a chair.
How many are there?
4. Oh, 3. 4. I can't tell. It's fine.
Next item 4.
Okay, there we go. We're all gonna fit in here.
Yes.
Hey, Paul.
Good.
How are you? I think you got enough.
Hey. There we go. That's my neighbor. Okay, so I'll begin. May, please, Madam Chair.
For the record, I'm Donna Swaney. I'm the chair of the Windsor Improvement Corporation. And thank you for having us here. We're glad to be here to talk about the things we've been doing and what we're looking forward to doing in the future as well. And our budget request is the same as last year. We haven't changed anything financially from what we had last year. But with me tonight is Bob Flint from SRDC, who manages our program and is our chief officer. And I have Tom Frisbee over here, who's the super volunteer. You may have seen all over painting everything and super volunteer in town and watering plants. And then we have Mike Welker, who is the chair of our marketing committee. So with that, I will turn over to Bob to run through this the fact sheet that he's presented us with.
Great to see everybody, and hi to folks on Zoom. So I'm Bob Flynn from Springfield Regional Development Corporation. So in addition to our support for Windsor Improvement Corporation, we also are the designated RDC or Regional Development Corporation for this part of Vermont. So the appropriation in the budget provides Windsor support to our organization as well as to WIC. So, on a high level overview between WIC and SRDC, you have two pretty big building projects going on in this community that we have facilitated. One is obvious on Main Street, the Central and Main project, which I know the board is certainly aware of. We worked very closely with Tom and the town and with the principals of the project, Evernorth and the Windsor Wyndham Housing Trust, to help assemble the Jenga puzzle of funding that made that work, including advocating for state funding for the HFA and in community development block grants, among other things. We dealt with regulatory issues for the project, most notably the brownfields on the site or contaminated soils that were removed. And as folks in town know, that project is well underway and will be completed later this year. The WIC board did a tour in December, and it was really cool to see this thing that we talked about conceptually and saw plans for, and to kind of be walking through it and realize this time next year, people will be living in it. So one for the good guys. And WIC retains the parcel next to that. WIC donated the property for what is going to be Central and Main. And then there's another parcel next to it that WIC would have intentions of developing for another mixed use project, perhaps housing on upper floors, retail or offices on the bottom. So that's in the coming file. And the environmental cleanup that was done for the big project also took care of our site as well at the same time. On the other end of town in Artisans Park, Blake Hill Preserves, which is a wonderful success story, is building an expansion. They're doubling their space. And when they came to Windsor 8 years ago, time
Yeah,
flies.
time flies. Huh? 8 or 9, yeah.
Our organization built that building, as well as the one next to it, which now hosts a dispensary. Used to be a cheese company. Well, cheese company's actually still in there, but so SRDC built both of those buildings, took on debt. And in the case of Blake Hill, we assembled the funding to allow their expansion to go ahead, including providing financing from our organization. So we were able to sell them the building for the cost of our outstanding debt, and construction is underway. And before too long, that will be open, which will effectively, will double their square footage and will allow them to add employees and grow in Windsor. So for somebody that started off with half a dozen people, they're now up to 50 and more coming. So again, one for the good guys. I'll just bang through some of the WIC stuff. WIC runs the downtown program for the community. Windsor is a designated downtown. So properties within this area, which is basically down to the Precision Museum and up past the old Cumberland Farms on Main Street, which is now the racing place. Buildings in that area can get state downtown tax credits as well as other things. So we facilitated projects. Central and Main got downtown tax credits, for example, and also try to help encourage activity in that area. So we're going to be submitting our downtown impact report here in a couple of weeks, and Windsor's going to do pretty well on that thanks to investments in the community. WIC also owns property itself. So the former Goodyear building, which is now termed River Street Commerce Park, and where Paul is home at the Windsor Resource Center. We manage those buildings. WIC owns them. There are 18 businesses at the River Street Commerce Park. There are 11 in the Resource Center, 11 employer organizations. At the River Street Commerce Park, we work with the town to expand the access to the back part of the property, which kind of had been one way. We've put in fill, so now it can take two-way traffic. And that allows, it allowed the town to relocate its sand pile and allowed for truck traffic to get back there to help the community during the winter. We also allow the Veggie Van Go program to use the site every month. The town trash day is there as well. And we mentioned those downtown tax credits. WIC has received money to do code improvements, much long needed code improvements to those properties. WIC does pay taxes on all the property it owns. In fact, this year we're a little over 40,000 in taxes that we pay back to the community. A lot of activity in marketing, which Mike will talk about in a second, but there's a really cool video that you've hopefully seen online that WIC created, and also doing some online marketing outside of the area to encourage people to learn more about Windsor. And just finally, in terms of us at SRDC, so we're the one-stop shop for anybody looking to start a business or for the largest businesses in the region or everything in between. And that help can mean money. We have financing. We talked about Blake Hill and our access to other things. We're the conduit to state products and incentives. We also are frankly a therapist to help talk through situations and help whatever crisis du jour is going on with the company that day, as well as helping to facilitate sales of commercial property and yes, growth, but sometimes things don't go well, and try and help when companies are in trouble as well. We're very involved with workforce development. I know Amanda Sidler from my organization has been here before to talk about the Working Communities Challenge. Our region is one of 8 in the state that have been working with the Federal Reserve Bank of Boston on a variety of initiatives to help stabilize employment opportunities for low and moderate income people in the region, which can touch on childcare, transportation. We were instrumental in bringing the micro transit project or the micro move occur here in the community and trying to find ways to continue that, a digital literacy program, and among other things. So I'll stop there, but that's kind of a high level view of who I am and what we do. And one of the things I think that's been really cool about WIC this past year is more people getting involved and really kind of generating energy. And Donna said volunteer, amazing volunteers. Well, Tom Prisby is the epitome of that.
Yeah.
And Tom, you want to talk a little bit about some of the stuff you've done this past year?
Most recently, if you walk down Main Street or anywhere downtown, one of the things you notice is we have some not only very attractive businesses, but attractive signages on the businesses. And we thought it would be a good idea to take that a step further and promote it and help existing businesses to upgrade what they had, or help new businesses to put attractive signage up that would attract people to their business, bring people inside. And especially at a time when you're starting up a new business, you don't have a lot of cash. So this is a subsidy program we've gotten, and it's funded through
The downtown grant.
downtown grants. So we've looked around and saw what businesses, not just in Windsor, but in surrounding towns, had attractive signs, and went and solicited the cooperation of sign makers, so we could give ourselves a head start on sign makers who already knew what good signage looked like. So we've got 2 of them on board right now, and we've also solicited the businesses downtown to help them if they want to apply for a grant to either upgrade their existing signage or new businesses a new sign. And right now we're working in particular with 2 new businesses in town to help that to happen. And they're in progress.
Great. And you want to just talk a little bit about, folks probably saw you in town, maybe in warmer weather, helping to fix up some of
Warmer weather for sure. I think I still have some paint under my nails from that, but under the auspices of WIC, a number of different buildings, businesses were painted this summer, and I wasn't the only one. Additional help as well. And so in some of the cases, the businesses supplied the materials and WIC supplied the labor. And in other cases, WIC helped out with the materials as well, where they weren't available. So first impressions, curb appeal, when you take the train into Windsor, the first thing you see when you step off the train is the Hebert building, which used to be filling paint and broken glass, and at least the front side of it now that you see when you get off the train is very presentable.
Yep.
And it looks good. And I think that will also help out with the existing main businesses in the area, the dispensary and the Windsor Station restaurant. Nicer for those folks to be able to, and their customers, to look at something good. And also I think it'll help quite a bit with the recreational facility that's going to be put into place this year.
And to add to that, we have, Wick bought 15 planters that we set around town this summer and 2 benches that are in the Memorial Park, the Veterans Memorial Park, 2 benches there. And we had beautiful flowers in them, and we're trying to maintain them. There's some here in office over here, and there's a bunch of them in Pizza Chef, and as well as ImageWorks. And Tom and I water them twice a week to make sure we can keep them going, to set them back out again. But and we have big plans for the coming year. And there's the empty building, the Auto Parks building. My husband, Bill Valentine, put together some sculptures with Tom's help, and they put them in there. So you can't see them now because the window's all frosted over, and moved a bench that had been abandoned, and put a big bench there. I've seen people sitting there and trying to make pick up the main street and look a little more oomph. And as a matter of fact, we got some encouragement from a local florist whom we did not buy flowers from, saying how beautiful they were. So that felt like a really good feather in our cap. But we have more plans coming for this spring and summer. So, and more plans that involve marketing and different activities. Yeah.
So maybe I'll let Mike just kind of do a couple of things about some of the marketing stuff that we did this past year.
Yep, and I'll be brief. First of all, just in terms of what the marketing committee does, it's what most people would probably think when they think of marketing. We're here to certainly promote the town of Windsor. It's one arm of what WIC does. I've been involved, just very brief history, been involved with the group since 2019. And kind of over those early years, I'll say, at least my involvement, one of the things that our group was kind of charged with is like doing marketing that's sustainable. I'll cite something that was conveyed to me, back when I got involved with the group. There was a campaign in, I think, 2015, Bob, correct me if I'm wrong, in combination with the state. Well, that was really really well received. Apologies, but after that, it was kind of what then. And so our group has really tried to certainly since 2019 and more recently tried to figure out the what then on what resources we have. And and one of the things that was paramount to being able to do the what then on a consistent basis is we have a media manager. We're on our second one now. This person being one with quite a bit of expertise, about basically 20 years in various marketing related experience. She's a graphic designer by day. And again, she came on board. It's now been 12 months. Prior to that, we had someone else in that role. But saying that because, a big part of our funding in the marketing budget is to go towards having a dedicated person to be able to help us out with some of these things. We're certainly a ambitious but small community, but there's really no substitute for having someone with that type of background be able to help out with this. So again, she's been with us now for a little over 12 months. Besides, singing the praises of our marketing manager, who's been great. One of the other big things we did this year that Bob referenced was the downtown video. Hopefully, certainly most of you have seen it. It's a great 3-minute video. We've chopped some up into 15-second clips for promotional purposes, but it was done by someone who is local to town. So part of what we did in our distribution plan for that video was to work with a local consultant. Again, we're a DIY group for sure, but for an asset as good as this, we wanted to try to engage with some professionals, and this group's based out of Quechee, has local clients and kind of helped us market this video. And again, it was really just to get this asset out there to certainly people outside of Windsor. We, in many cases, targeted like the 93 corridor. We've since switched a little bit to 91 just to see, put the feelers out in terms of who's viewing this thing. And so that was meant to be a 3 to 4 month engagement. It's coming to an end. And so I've got some stats here. I don't want to cite everything I have here. I can for sure share all the detail after the fact. But basically, in 4 months, that led to a little over 1.6 million impressions. So basically, 1.6 million eyes were on this at some point. So obviously that's a big number, and impressions don't, so what does that translate to? But again, it's getting a good asset. It's out there. It's bringing people to our website. We have, statistics that can give us like what's a cost per click, right? So I have it for monthly, but basically on this campaign, we spent just under $2,000. We got 13,530 clicks, which amounts to 14 cents cost per click. So aside from getting this really good thing out there, we have some actionable data to move forward on as a committee. One of the things that once our engagement ends with them is we're going to take kind of the DIY knowledge of what they did, not necessarily doing the job as good as the experts do, but that's part of the deal, right? We're going to have an understanding of how to do this, and if we're so lucky, maybe engage with them on special projects down the road. But that was certainly a highlight of what we did to make that asset, promote that asset. Other things we did, and sorry, just to cite one more stat. In terms of website sessions, the difference between us not having an asset out there was basically 204 visitors to the site. Having something out like there, in 2024, we had 8,751 visitors to the site. So obviously that's 204 versus almost 8,800. So, big difference there, right? And so now we know we can do that. What do we do next? Other things we did were more, not quite as large in scale, but quite active in terms of doing some Facebook ads on our own. We are able to do that on our own. We did a photo contest, which hopefully many of you saw, that again was kind of a win-win-win. We're engaging with people, they're engaging with us to give us photos, and we're, the prizes were gift cards to Windsor businesses, right? So we're investing that money right back into the community. So not to keep rambling on, but those are a few things, and happy to take other questions, but give the rest of the time back for any questions regarding what we do.
I know Paul's a voting member of our board, Tom's ex officio, and hopefully, again, a quick overview, but pleasure to be of service to the community and happy to answer any questions.
I'd like to add though, too, that we're trying to work with Riley, and we've done the pumpkin contest, the Halloween time, autumn moon. And then we took on the downtown business holiday decorations this year. So, and those are items that we'll continue to work with the town on and work with Riley too. So, yep.
Ryan?
Yeah, I just want to say thank you, Mike, for giving us that rundown and kind of taking this modern approach to the marketing. I think that's, the website traffic is a pretty good indication that we're certainly getting more of the Windsor name and brand out there. So I appreciate that very much.
Keep working on it.
Thank you.
Yep, I'm gonna say, Paul Wood, I'm gonna say I'm a liaison with Windsor Improvement Corporation, just got up and running. I got to know the committee. I saw the hard work that they're doing behind the scenes. This is a group of folks that show up, that show up at these. It's a committee that are just very strong, the doers for the town of Windsor. And it's what we need, because as you see, we're starting to yield some results. Everyone shows up there with ideas. There's a thirst to improve our town. And it's been just my pleasure to get to know these folks and see the action that's happening behind the scenes, what's happening, not just in the meeting, the communications outside of it, ideas to continue to try to bring people into this town and to improve our community. So I tell you, it's been nothing but a pleasure to be working with these folks. I tell you, I support WIC wholeheartedly, and this is definitely a backbone to our community and to give us exposure for outside of Windsor County also. The town's moving. We have this building, we have new people coming in, we have another piece of property. As this starts happening, boy, I tell you, the sky's the limit for Windsor. So, and it's the hard work from WIC and SRDC that's really making this happen. So I want to thank the WIC committee and SRDC for all the hard work you commit to our town.
Can I add that we had well over 200 volunteer hours this year, maybe 300 with different people, not just the committee, but people on the outside who came in and helped do different things for the town. So, and that in itself has been rewarding to have people come forward like that.
Any other comments, questions?
Curious, I have a couple of things I'm curious about. Just a second.
Well, that's okay.
One is, does WIC have a relationship with like SEVCA, with other social service agencies in the region?
Well, so the resource center, as I suspect you know, is sort of a hub of that here in the community and we are the landlord for that. So we're interfacing on that level with people. And through the Working Communities Challenge, SEFCA is a partner, as is Mount Scottney Hospital, as is all the usual suspects on that. So, yeah, we do try to work closely with all of them.
And this is just a dumb question, but has anybody ever thought of asking Blake Hill and or Simon Pierce to have a little shop in the downtown area?
So without a public meeting, I'm not going to speculate on potential occupants of spaces, and that's a two-sided discussion because you have property owners and you have tenants. So Vicky Allard from Blake Hill is a member of the WIC board, and I think that's intentional to try and figure out how to cross-pollinate and not just have people get off at exit 9 and then get back on at exit 9. So I think it's an ongoing discussion.
Great. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Anytime. Thank you.
Yeah, it's okay.
Yeah.
Send me an email and I'll.
Thank you.
So, what is July? Is it still something else?
Yeah. Right. To the folks. They mentioned, they have $50,000. It's under the Administration Economic Development. That has been a consistent number for some time. So that's why they were part of this particular part of the budget discussion. The next bullet point is Development Office. I gotta say, development takes on meetings that I don't understand. I know my wife works at the Precision Museum. Development's fundraising. For us, development is, I'm going to say it's the party line item. It's where the coordination happens for the things that I think people in the community find fun. Examples are the holiday decorations that take place, the Autumn Moon Festival, help coordination with Alumni Weekend. Pretty much anytime you see a public event, the concerts on the common, things like that, it comes through development, and development might as well be called the Riley White line.
Yeah.
Riley is tenacious when it comes to that. She likes doing this stuff. And she just takes the bull by the horns. It's a 12-month thing. We were talking the other day. It went from, if you want to start Autumn Moon Festival, the planning starts about in March. That happens in October. In the meantime, over the summer, we have all the concerts on the common that are happening. We coordinate with Edgewater Farms for CSA drop-offs. We have the alumni weekend. We get into the fall and we're starting to talk about what do we need for holiday decorations and buying them and getting them up and getting the contest going. And Wick, mentioned they had taken over the merchant side of that. Riley still handled the residential side of that to get the word out and things like that. The Santa Claus ride through town. But then with the rec department, if we'd ever get some snow, when we have ice skating on the common, that's really the rec department that does the Lions work on that, but they work on a lot of different things together. So it just is, when we put the budgets together, I say, people say we don't have any money. The budget, we're going to spend $7 million. We have money. We could have the best roller coaster if that's what Windsor wanted to spend their money on, and we just would have nothing else. So it's a matter of priorities. It's not a matter of just not having money. It bothers me when I see communities having financial struggles and they take out the fun stuff kind of first. We're not going to have fireworks, or we're going to close a swimming pool or things like that. Particularly when times are tough. I think those are the things that can really help build community they can lift spirits and all those kind of things. So I'm not gonna pull out the budget just yet. I think that's $12,000 or $16,000 that's on that line item. And you either see it or you don't. If I have to explain to you where that money goes, you should get out of the house and come downtown or around town a little more often. If you just don't think it's a value, everybody has a right to an opinion, but I think we get a lot out of that particular line item. Questions about that? Darn right. Just give them more money, Tom. Riley deserves more. Everybody got a hard copy of an updated budget? The page numbers didn't print, so we're gonna go through this by.
We've just found that particular item.
Okay. Yeah, that's like down in the zoning office.
Oh, it is.
There it is. It shows 26 and 17.
Town
26
events
budget.
expenditures, yes.
Yeah, 17,000.
Yeah.
If we're gonna talk about administration, account number.
Account number for town
Okay, we're not,
So-
there's not really any news in the administration set of line items, so I would say let's move to the expense side. And that starts with 100,3,200. No, it doesn't. Okay, all right, so that's what I'm gonna do.
Here.
1, 2, 3 pages. Okay, when you turn 3 pages, you'll see on the back side a green line that says, no tax revenue.
Yes.
And then if you go onto the page that's flat, that's where the administration starts. Okay, in the first sentence where it says selectmen and governance, that's the budget for the select board. And it's all, the clerk, that's, to take the minutes. The wages are the article that the community votes on by a voice vote on the stipends for the select board members, associated payroll costs, memberships, those are different professional organizations like VLCT, things like that. The one that stands out maybe is morale fund.
I saw that.
All right, so that was a victim of budget cuts this past year. So we went back down to like 1,500. That I give you in the last fiscal year, we usually have one holiday staff party that it's a potluck. We have it here. Sometimes when Midville was in town, they catered that. We provide a small Christmas bonus to all of the employees, and that's what comes out of that line item. The other thing that we did is last winter about this time, we had a department versus department kind of slot car racing championship challenge. So we went down to the slot car place. They did a great job in showing you how those things work, give you some time to practice on it. And then we had a pretty good time with that. And it's, there's no conference trips to Las Vegas or anything like that, but it's just, we use that funds to get the staff together on different points of view. Is it essential? It's not, but it is, that's what it's been there for. The next section, you see the WIC Economic Development, 50,000. Flipping the page, you have management. And the wages and management are myself, my administrative assistant. That's that for up there. Finance office flow. One of the finance people. So those salaries, the wages are all split 60% to the town, 20% to the water, and 20% to the sewer. The same with all the other associated payroll costs. 401k contribution is I am not eligible for the pension plan, so that goes to a retirement plan for me. Car allowance is the same. And then the other things are pretty self-explanatory. Get down to audit. That's what we pay for our annual auditors. Line item, that's estimates for legal accounts. We go back in fiscal 24, the blue column, you see legal is $27,000. That's because the town chose to play a pretty active role in all of the legal work that needed to happen for that apartment building. As Wick mentioned, it was a pretty complicated knot of financial contributors and a lot of fingers in the pie. So we spent a fair amount of money in conjunction with the lawyers made a lot of money on that project. So we just played our part, but that'll be a non-recurring expense. Let's see here, accounting and finance. Those are just the support things for that. Also computer services and computer equipment. We contract with the Windsor School District to do our IT services. That has proven very reasonable. The other thing that has kind of changed with the market is you used to buy servers, and when you got software, you got a little disk and you put it in and you load it in and all that kind of stuff. That doesn't happen anymore. You buy subscriptions to everything like that. So all of our subscriptions go into the line item. Nimerick, our software, for example, that was just a kind of a flat amount. Now that is all cloud-based. It's all for the better. It's just a pretty big change in the way that business has worked. Questions on administration and management? All right, going on to the next. Town clerk is broken out according to the responsibilities like records, permits, elections, board of abatement. They are pretty straightforward. You may see things like state dog fees and state marriage license fees. The clerk handles those transactions. The state gets a portion of the proceeds from those licenses and fees, and the town keeps a portion. So that represents the amount that goes to the state. There is never a state person here helping Riley do that work. Flipping the page, you have the treasurer's office. And the treasurer's office gets split. Let's get a math. If if the water and sewer each pay 27.5%, how much does that leave for the town to pay?
46.
Okay, 47.5, 47, 46. I don't, in that line.
Close.
I probably should have had that off the top of my head. 27.5, 27.5, and the rest goes to the town. Again, you can see in actual of 24, that figure was 65,000, and we're looking at 28,000 per budget this year. That's because the long-serving elected treasurer, Deb Olet, retired at the end of her term last March. We knew that was coming, and we're pretty thin. We have basically one of each kind of position, so there's not a lot of depth in any of the offices. So we hired somebody basically a year in advance to work alongside with Deb and the others so that they would see the once a year creation of the tax bills and the once a year mailing of the tax bills and the 4 times we sent out the utility bills and all that kind of stuff. So that was money well spent. Deb is happy in her retirement with a new grandchild, and we have Tiffany up front. Natalia is who we hired to handle the finances. He's in the back, but she's put the staff together and it's all going well. And just I know the questions do come up with both the treasurer and the clerk. For a long time, those positions were elected, and the elected person ran the office, and there was a lot of stability in those positions. They usually had no competition when they ran for re-election, and they were happy faces to the community. As you might imagine, particularly the financial end has become much more complicated all over the years. The amount of federal and state money that comes through, you really can't rely on somebody who happens to live in your town's zip code to have the expertise and be personable enough to win an election and be able to handle all that. So our charter provides for an elected town clerk and an elected treasurer, but the select board can appoint assistants to those. So for probably going on 7 years, Riley has been the assistant town clerk, and she handles the day-to-day operations. We have a titular town clerk that is currently vacant, that will be up for election this coming March. And then our town treasurer, that one is currently vacant, but Natalia Puma is our assistant treasurer. She's now running, the finances for the community. And Tiffany is the face that you see with water, sewer bills, and taxes. So that part of it is working out pretty well. Delinquent tax collection or tax costs associated with the collection of delinquencies. There's a revenue line item that any costs we incur to collect delinquent taxes, we can charge to the entity that's delinquent. So there's a revenue offset on that. Intergovernmental payments. School real tax payments. That's a line that we have in there. That if we put anything on it, it would be the pass-through line of the taxes we collect for the school and then give to the school. I look at that off budget because, as I've mentioned before, we collected taxes and we have to pay the school whether they are delinquent or not. So sometimes it's good to see what that difference might be, but in this report, it's not the best way to see it. The county judicial tax, I believe, the county sheriff gets all that money.
It goes directly to me, the whole.
The whole thing?
Yeah, it just
Times
goes
that by
directly to me,
24.
cash.
Yeah,
Wow.
in bags.
No, it's not, but there's a small county tax that they actually just voted on tonight.
And it covers like the county courthouse and stuff like that.
The courthouse, the building that I'm in and Woodstock TV's in, and it pays for like some of my office staff.
Yeah, so every town gets an assessment from the county. We just got that assessment in today, and it's like 16,891 or something like that. So that's for. Moving down from that is our debt management. This lists all of our municipal bonds, and they're named for the year in which they were incurred and the amount. So like the first one, 2011, it's a $4 million. And you have two, and things that don't make sense to you, but for me is like that D&H is dam, and the H is a reimbursement for some Irene money. Then we spent a lot of money on the dam back in the day. Sure. Might not think about that. And then highway H is all highways. So when we are going to do a major project, we go to the town at a town meeting, ask for the authority to bond for road construction or water and sewer construction, or we have a light, all that thing. We don't pay anything until we go to the bond bank and draw it. So these are all bonds that we have drawn, and they represent the principal and interest payments.
Hey, Tom.
Yep.
Sorry, it's hard online here. Didn't we have some pretty big debt come off the books either this year or this coming year?
In fiscal 23, you can see it's the very first line item. You'll see, that 4 MB, that was for the municipal building. And you see there was a payment of $175,000. That was the bond that built this building back in, I think 2003, and that came off the books then, but there's nothing else that'll be coming off they're all 20-year bonds. Most of them have been incurred since 2011. So we got 5-6 years.
Yes.
Yep. So Tom, the sidewalk that was extended down to Runnymede, how was that funded? How'd we come across the money for that? That nice sidewalk that got extended down past.
That nice sidewalk.
Yes.
That was a downtown transportation grant. The paid for a portion of it.
Yeah. Really nice. Good improvement.
I use it
I like
I
it.
do too.
Get you all the way down there, you cut across. the
It
road,
kind of
right
seemed like
there.
a sidewalk to nowhere, but when you
No,
park the
very
Price
good.
Stopper, when you get to the park,
Yes.
A little bit more, it's nice.
um, I think that's the, and then there's some, other lines that made interest on a tax anticipation note. Last year we didn't have to use one. Or last year we did. We didn't expect to have to use one this year. We are going to be using one this year. It depends on how much savings we have access to when we need the money for cash flow. We've talked about that a little bit. The other ones are just, kind of leftover line items that, don't come into play. Listers are the assessor's office. You can see on that line item, the, wages have gone up significantly, and that is related to the retirement of our prior assessor who was working like 12 to 15 hours a week, doing a good job, keeping things afloat. He was, I'm going to say, Rick Tilson was doing us a favor. He wasn't loving every minute here, and he had some fairly significant outside responsibilities, but he is an appraiser by trade and was able to help us. We went through the reappraisal last year, and Rick was good enough to stay on through that process. We've tried for quite some time to find somebody who's interested in like a very part-time position that had the skill. That doesn't exist. Michelle, who we hired, is a lister in Plymouth, and she also worked part-time for the reval company that did the town. She and Rick worked about 12 hours a week. Michelle is about 30, but she is also completely revamping the office. She is the impetus behind getting all of our property records online, so that should be happening by this summer sometime. She's also taking training to learn town clerk's responsibilities. So as I think we mentioned, Riley is expecting in April. And again, we don't have a deep staff. So Michelle will be able to help pick up on those responsibilities. So it's more, but we're getting quite a bit more. And for those who use the office regularly, I think they'll see that.
So there's a no budget in 2025 on that line? What's that about?
Let's see, you're no budget for what? Wages?
Oh, the property revaluation.
Oh, yeah. The,
One time deal.
what number are you looking at?
Looking at 56.
01.
Oh, property revaluation expense. So like that shouldn't be in this budget.
Oh.
I mean, what's there, so the way the revaluation works is if you look up a line, reval fund transfer, it says $12,000. Every year the state sends us about $12,000 that we're supposed to put in a savings bank to pay for a reval when that occurs.
Mhm.
So we had been doing that. We had about $180,000 in that account. And that's an account that operates adjacent to this account. Last year we spent whatever that number is, $76,000 on the revaluation. There's a behind the scenes transfer so that actually came out of that fund, not the operating fund. So normally that shouldn't show up at all, but there hadn't been any activity in that since 2010. So there will be some expense associated with it, but it doesn't show up in this budget because it comes out of the reval budget.
So the line, can you tell me what you were just talking about that I thought was that with the
Going online?
yeah.
Part of the
And the
reval.
person.
Okay, so the assessor's office handles all of our property records, right? You know, the card's got all that kind of stuff. And it's pretty common these days to have all that information available online. Okay, got it?
No, but the woman who came on after,
Yeah, so,
what line is that? I'm just.
well, her wages are part of the lister wages. And the effort to put all that online will come out of the revaluation fund, not the general fund, because right now, the revaluation contract that we had to do the physical revaluation in town is not yet complete because they have to wait for us to redo the maps. Then they take it from that guy and then they go and they mix it all up and they do everything to put it online. And Michelle is working with those two companies to see that happen.
But Michelle's wages are,
It's that $52,000 on the wages. It says part-time listers.
got it, over in 2026.
Right.
That's just part, I mean, hers is just part of that 52, right? Part of the 52.
Well,
Listers plural, right?
well, she's it.
Oh, she's it. Okay.
So that's Michelle's salary.
Okay.
We have 3 lister positions that could be elected.
Okay.
There's been one person, I think, since I've been here. It's one of those changing ways municipal government's having, from what I understand.
But why is it only 24 this year? I didn't quite follow that story.
Okay, so if we go along the lister's wages line item,
Mhm.
we had Rick Tilson, who was part-time.
Yeah.
He made $21,000 in 23. He made 24,000. We made actually 24,000 in 24. When we put this budget together last year, the expectation is we would hire another Rick
Got
with a
it.
bit of a raise. That didn't happen. So we hired Michelle.
So on the 2025. Oh, so you hired Michelle halfway through the year? Is that?
Yeah, she started over the summer.
Got it. So that's why it's only half of 50.
Right, yeah, we're
I'm
sitting,
getting it now.
yeah, okay, yes, that's like on a number of these things, we're sitting here we put the budget together November, December, January. It doesn't start until July. It doesn't end for 12 months after that. So sometimes things like that happen. The expectation was that's how much we can find somebody for. We could not. So in August is when Michelle was hired. And that salary is the salary that was negotiated.
Thank you.
How many hours does she actually work part-time?
30.
So Emma has a question? Oh, Emma, no?
No, I did. Sorry. So are we still looking for another part-time person, or would that only be necessary for the next revaluation?
Oh, no.
Is that what you're saying? Sorry, I just wanted to make sure.
Well, it's, to provide a little bit of background. When the long-serving assessor retired,
Yeah.
he was working 30 hours a week. We couldn't find somebody who was willing to do that job. Rick Tilson agreed to step in, but he had outside responsibilities. He did it in about 15 hours a week. But as I had said, he was kind of just keeping the lights on us above water. There was a lot of stuff that wasn't getting done, but he did more than what he took on. A lot of aggravation, particularly putting together the whole revaluation bid and getting all that done. But again, going to replace somebody, that kind of position with any expertise wasn't available. We went back to the 30 hours and hired Michelle. So the salary that you see there is more than what the prior 30-hour-a-week assessor made. But if you factored in just annual increases over the 6 or 7 years, it would be about similar.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
I think it's important to reiterate how much it's going to mean to get all of the deeds and records online. That is we're so far behind with that. There's I think every town that surrounds us has it pretty much, except maybe Scotty doesn't. I don't know. I wouldn't be surprised if they do. But, I deal in real estate, and the biggest problem they have here, if you want to buy, sell a property in Windsor, you have to walk down to the office and go through the books and find everything. It just doesn't happen anymore. I mean, in New Hampshire, they have a thing called New Hampshire Deeds. They did it statewide. And so everything's right there. You can go in and you can pull everything up you need to know about the property. and print it right off. And in a matter of minutes, you have all the paperwork you need to conduct a sale on a property. And that cuts down the expense of buying and selling a property because you're not having to pay people as much to do that work. I think the value we're going to get out of that is going to be a lot. It's also going to, I think, open the appeal to other realtors that know that coming here to sell property, they have to do legwork with their people to come in. The appraisers have to, the banks have to come in and get all this paperwork together. And it makes it less appealing. It's just a little thing. I mean, somebody really wants to buy here, they're going to buy here. But if they have a choice between Windsor and another town around us, and they don't have to go through all of that, and the properties are on par, they'll probably go the other direction because it is a big deal.
And we put the clerk records online 3 or 4 years ago. So we saw the impact that had. It did cut down the foot traffic in the office, but we still collect the fees when they access them online. So you might imagine trying to do whatever it is you have to do all day, but you're constantly having, somebody walking through the door in a meeting and stuff like that. So it's made the clerk's office, I think, a little more efficient. And to Cliff's point, people like the access remotely. The assessors, you have to redo all of the property records to get them online. So everybody says, don't do it until you do it with a revow. And most towns have done one since 2009. We just hadn't done one. So that gave us an opportunity to make sure all of the information that's online is also up to date. So we expect to have that done by this summer. So if that's your line of work, that's a godsend. And that ends administration. That's basically this form. Notice that when we take the surveys, the community always lists spending more money on administration. So, we all know that here. I also am the only office that's open on Fridays, and the number of people who show up here on a Friday because they think that they want to get something done and they find the office is closed, that irritates them. And how long has that been going on? I say since 2010, I believe. But having access to pay bills online, property records online, all of that stuff online also helps out with that aspect of the customer service. You still have a large percentage of the population likes to come in and see the person they're paying their tax bill face to face. But it does help in that regard. If we move on to municipal insurance, that gets near the end. If you go zipping past things like the highway department and everybody else, you get to, well, you'll see a page on the upside, recreation. That would be the last. Then you have planning and zoning. That's for whatever reason shows up in this sequentially. This part of the budget, part of the administration. And that represents, everybody find the planning, zoning, development? Yes. Okay, so that's where, when we're talking about development, that's what that line item is. Everything else has to do with the management of our zoning office. You see, we budgeted 143,000 for wages for fiscal 25. That goes down to 80,000. That's because we have 2 employees that now 4 towns share. It had been Windsor, Weathersfield, and Bellows Falls. Starting in January, Putney joined that as well. But that reduction in salary is because one of those employees moved to a Weathersfield. Weathersfield now employs that person, and we employ Haley, the other one. So, and there is a revenue offset for that shared service. I think the other lines are fairly self-explanatory. There are separate legal bills for that if they're zoning related. Any other questions?
You said there was 2, the planning zone, Haley, and who's the other one?
Ryan Gumbart.
So Ryan's still on there?
Ryan, we have access to, but Ryan, when he moved to Weathersfield, Ryan works for Weathersfield and Rockingham.
Right.
Haley works for Rockingham and Windsor. But they still talk to each other like they're looking to put all the permitting on an online platform. You know, they communicate about stuff like that. They communicate with the,
So when it comes to who we deal with, it's basically directly with Haley now, and that's it.
right.
Okay.
Municipal insurances, liability, we get that through VLCT and they tell us what the rates are going to be. And we break that up between municipal water and sewer based on the assets that are being covered. Employee relations, this is associated employment costs. Healthcare deductible, that first one is we offer a high deductible plan that is negotiated through two different union contracts. We provide $4,400 reimbursement to single policyholders and $8,800 for two people and up. Something that is gone. So we take an estimate on what our experience might be. One of the things that has changed is even though premiums have gone up quite a bit, as you see on the next line item, it's gone up $140,000, 22% this year. In addition to that, what we see is the premium is the number most people look at and see. Once you get past that, it gets way too confusing for the average person to ever figure out until you read it. And things like the copays and the deductibles change. They increase the copays and the deductibles to help offset the increase in the premium. But when those things go up, it means it's a higher likelihood that someone's going to use more of their high deductible allowance. So the other thing that makes this tricky to plan is the insurance policies run on a calendar year, not a fiscal year. So we're budgeting again right now for something that won't take place for 6 months, but we know what the new rates are, but those new rates end in December and there will be a new set of rates for the second 6 months of the year. So normally we just stick in 10% as a guess for what the second 6 months are going to be. Most of the time that comes kind of close to working out. This year it did not come kind of close to working out. So that's a line item we will have to manage this year. Then we have dental premiums, pension contribution. That relates to a municipal pension plan that had been in existence for quite some time. But 8-9 years ago, the town moved to VEMR's. You see it further down, VMERS pension, that's Vermont Municipal Employees Retirement System. So with our municipal plan, we had to wait for the actuaries to do their annual analysis. It was significantly impacted by what the markets were doing on how much we had to contribute. And so it'd go all over the place. Now we're kind of on autopilot on that plan. New employees are not allowed to sign up for it. We have a few employees that have been around for a while that are still on it. But VEMR's, the state just sends us a thing that says you need to contribute 7.34% next year. So it's much less volatile and easier to budget for. And it's a good plan. Any other questions?
Tom, so is all our VEMR's contributions, and I don't have it in front of me. I couldn't find it. But so health insurance, can you just give the rationale why we break out insurance and pension from our department line items instead of saying, hey, the fire department costs us this much with pension and healthcare, because it is part of the cost of running the department, fire, police, highway. How can we break it out in a separate line item, especially pension in particular and healthcare? I mean, those are pretty big numbers. I get we've talked about this a little bit, but I think it's just important to see how much the departments are actually costing us. I know we have the big number is the same at the bottom, right? But I think it doesn't give us a true description of how much each department costs us.
In this document, that's correct. liability insurance, you could make the same argument for, that all of these costs can be broken out to departments. And frankly, when I got here, they all were. The reason I don't do that is because I have other reports where I can see that and by department, but it's not information that the department heads can use to make a decision. We can't hire somebody and ask them, hey, are you still on your parents' plan or do you need a family plan? Because that'll make a $20,000 difference in the employment cost. So I can see it because what I need to see is how much we paying for pensions. Where are we with healthcare premiums, year to date? Are we running behind? Because that line in particular can change dramatically as turnover happens within the staff, as people move from single or two-person plans to family plans. So I can look at one line item and see how that works. The department heads, it's not a relevant number for them. They need the number of bodies that they need, and they manage their bottom line of their department. I manage the bottom line of the overall operation. So that's why I do it that way.
Yes.
Yep. Hey, Tom. So, if you waive your insurance with the town, do you get a small payout? Like within my district, you don't take your insurance, they give you a certain amount of money. If you are insured through, say, your spouse or whatever it may be, military, whatever it may be, is there, if you waive it, you get a payout? So you don't take the insurance?
There is it's
Stipend, whatever you
a
want to call
stipend.
it.
I think in the union contracts, that may be $125 a month. So not very much, but what is much more common is we have a number of employees that have legacy plans from their prior employers, particularly in emergency services. If they want to, they can say, well, town plan's better. I want that. We don't like that when that happens. We know we have a good plan. So what we offer is we give them access to the HRA account.
Yes.
So that is a maximum exposure of $8,800. That makes them happy because that covers their out of pocket on their other plan without us having to pick up the premium. So we have a number of employees that have taken advantage of that.
So my question towards that was just say, for instance, Cindy, whom is my wife, had phenomenal insurance. And if I chose to go on her insurance, I think the district now upped it to like $6,000. So if you bow out of the insurance, I give you a check for $6,000. If you say, I don't want it.
That's essentially what we're.
Right, but you're saying it's $125 a month?
Well, no, what I'm saying is, yeah, that's what the union contracts say, but practically what is happening is we provide them access to the $8,800 HRA plan.
Okay,
So they don't get
I
a check
understand.
for $8,800,
they
but they
still
have
can access the
Right.
HRA. Okay, I got you.
And then
All right.
that pays for, like, you I don't know, you need Band-Aids and eye wash and
No,
stuff like that. So
I have it.
that part seems to work. Nobody would take the $125 because we can't tell them they're not allowed to take the health insurance, right? So
Sure.
it's got to be something meaningful for them to want to accept it.
It's good incentive.
Questions?
It's theoretically, that would kind of be the end of the budget discussion, and we would have gone through the entire budget at this point. I sent out an email. This is the hard copy that says, this is to me, the lowest the budget can go. The numbers that are here, there was a document that lists all of the reductions, a little over $400,000. And as the last budget indicated, there was about a 15.5% tax increase required. This brings that down to 8.3%. I also included, at least on the online, confirmation from the school that they're seeing a 0.4% increase. So, as I've said before, this town and the school worked together in the past when one side's got a whack. Last year was an example. So strongly urge you to keep that in mind. Just be.
Wait, can you say that again?
Okay.
Whatever you're strongly keeping in mind.
This is why we need new people, because you ask questions and I go too fast and other people get tired of listening to me talk, so they don't ask. So your property, it's right, school in town, right? For us, it's about 50-50. And that means when somebody wants to know how much is my tax bill going, I'm mad because my school went up. Last year, they were mad because the school went up 19%. And we got yelled at. This year, the school is going to go up 0.4%. I'm not sure why. They're not sure why, but we'll say flat.
That's what I was, so we're just all not sure why.
It's the state gives us and the school the tax rate. As near as I can tell, and speaking with the finance people at the school, last year their budget went up, their local at 7%, and their taxes went up 19%. This year their budget went up about 7%, and this year their taxes aren't going up at all. Somebody's doing magic somewhere, and it gets into all of these other factors that the state does. I think I'm going to guess, and it's not completely off base, but there's something called average daily membership. And now that we're in a school district, the budget gets weighted by the number of students you send to the system. So I'm guessing that the number of Windsor students as a percentage decreased. So it's not just the spending, there's more West Windsor students in, or when it comes to the supervision district that pays for a lot of things between Heartland, Weathersfield, Windsor, and West Windsor, that the percentage of students from Windsor decreased, and that's what changed the number that's significant. So that's the keeping in mind. My point is, these are, no matter what the number is, 8 or 15%, that's a big tax increase. You can kind of cut that in half to see what that's going to do to your property tax and home. The other part to keep in mind is just because the numbers say this on the sheet doesn't mean it's going to happen. Last year we did the same thing, and the one line that I pointed out is we increased ambulance revenue by $100,000, and there was no historical evidence to say you should do that. And the only reason it was done is so that we didn't need to collect as much tax to offset it. We missed the ambulance revenue by $145,000. There was also a list of other things that they weren't line items that were over budget, they were unforeseen expenses. Then that happens every year. So that kind of stuff happened. So to take 400,000 out of this budget, I can almost guarantee you we will run a deficit next year. And that's okay. You can't do it all the time, but you can do it sometimes. The two things that I think are very important when considering all of this is that I reduced the reserve fund and the capital reserve from 105 and 115 to 75 and 50. So it's something. It's not nothing. It's meaningful money. But the other strong suggestion is we have ARPA money. And ever since we've had it, there was about $90,000 that didn't get allocated to anything, other things that were either have already bought or were waiting to buy. One of the things that we allocated money for was $150,000 to emergency radios. That has all come through. They cost $200,000 instead of $300,000, so we have an extra $125,000 from that. So let's just say we have $210,000 in ARPA money that's unallocated. I think it's imperative, no matter what cuts happen here, that money get allocated to the reserve fund.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, it's like, hey, I got my tax refund, but I owe 10,000 on my credit cards, but now I got free money on my tax. That's not smart money management. So,
The idea that if we do run a deficit, that money may be tapped into.
right, that's the rainy day reserve fund. What do we do in case something bad
Just in
happens?
case.
Right.
Yeah.
So that, we're starting to get a pretty healthy reserve. The other part that I sent the narrative out on is our accounting software showed that we ran an $82,000 deficit last year. And we expected to run a deficit because mid-year we had some very significant payroll increases. And we actually were able to work through those particular expenses. And when I tear apart the numbers, kind of like going back to the reval expense, that was $79,000 not budgeted. It showed up in that number, but it wasn't done incorrectly financially. It just was an awkward way to do it. So there's a number of things there like that. There's ARPA money coming in, there's ARPA money going out, there's grant money going in, there's grant expense coming out. And as I've been working with Natalia, how we set up, this is our operating budget. I said, the only thing I want in here is the things that the select board voted is they want to see and to run the town. And then we keep everything else on basically project books. So we get a $10,000 grant, we spend the money, it comes off on another book. It's still all accounted for through the general fund. The general fund is like the big old wheelbarrow of money that everybody reaches into and puts money into. But I said, we got to clean this up so it all looks this. The long and short of it is, we didn't run an $82,000 deficit. We ran about a $225,000 deficit. And a lot of that had to do with the $145,000 shortage on the ambulance fund. So I want to see how this year looks, but this time next year, we're going to look back 2 years and we're going to see what we may have done to close that. But in the whole scheme of things, the town lost an $82,000 deficit. It just, there's different pots of money that all gets done, but because there was more non-budgeted revenue came in, the non-budgeted expenses that were made, it made the general fund look too good. So last year was kind of the last few years with COVID and all that stuff has been way different. Going back a little further, this is why I don't get all that worked out, is we were getting COVID grant money for nothing. Like it was either our fire department that was very curtailed on what they could do for emergency services. They got hired by FEMA to run COVID test stations and we got paid for that. We got paid $100 and something thousand just because of the revenue we lost. It was all that kind of thing going on. So over the long haul, we're kind of okay. But last year we cut things all the way down to the bone. When you dug into the numbers, it hurt. We do that again, it's going to hurt again. And if we don't put money in savings, it's going to hurt even worse. And we're going to get to the point where you don't have the luxury. You can't go to your savings account, pull it out.
So the thought is, we don't want to cut to the bone this year as much as we could, right?
Right. If it were up to me, and I'm a Windsor taxpayer, I would say, that list of cuts is too drastic. And rather than that 8% increase, I would like to see a 10% increase. And I will make the numbers do that. And I'll pull them from the line items that I think are most reasonable. I will do whatever the board says and I will manage it as best we can, but it all comes back to, it's very difficult to get the same product as you're used to having for that price.
Right.
So something else will give. And that's okay. But if it's just about money management, I say somewhere around 10% means it's a 5% increase this year. It's hard, but it's just, what are the complaints going to be? My taxes are too high, or how come my road didn't get plowed on time?
My house burned down, so we didn't have fire truck there.
Yes, and there was a fire in town today.
There was a fire in town today. Right. Yeah, Cliff.
So going back to the employee expenses, I think you can't emphasize enough the fact that that's an overall almost 20% increase. And of that increase, almost all of it has to do with the health side of things.
Yes.
So that's nothing any of us in this room can do anything about.
And it's nothing any other business is not doing.
Exactly. And if
It's across.
it's
the board.
happening where you're working, it's happening everywhere. So it's an unreasonable standard also, to your point, Tom, to be held to saying, I want the taxes reduced, but then again, I don't think the town should have to pay what my employer is paying. That it doesn't make any sense. And I think it's important that if there's anybody watching this, that they understand when they complain about it, it's like, well, the complaints need to head up the ladder to where all these unreasonable and unnecessary expenses are happening. And And it's, it's a national problem, and it all eventually comes down to each individual. But there's nothing, we don't do national problems in this room. We take all the crap that comes from it. I'd love to have separated out, Tom, at some point, because I think it'd be fascinating to see how much of all the money that we're spending in here actually ends up going back to the state for taxes on all kinds of little nitpick stuff they're putting in there.
Including our.
Because I'd like to have representatives to answer to that, why we have to pay them back for dog fees. What right do they have to claim anything? They don't do anything in the transaction. They're just sitting there, it's like the king in their feast and saying, pay me my road.
Who was the liaison with Elizabeth Rose? Have we been talking to?
We have, like she's been
She
here.
was here at a
Yeah.
meeting earlier. I
Oh,
mean,
yeah.
what, during Christmas week?
Yep.
She was here.
Yeah, and they've been good about coming. I'm sure they're gonna be coming again
Right, and we can,
after this gets going, and that would be a fun thing to find. The reality is, if you add all that up, it's really, really insignificant to the cost of the budget. It just rubs me the wrong way. You know what I'm saying? They shouldn't be coming here to try to take more. They should be coming here to try to help us do more. And that can't be emphasized enough. So I'll get off my soapbox.
Let them eat cake, right?
it's frustrating. A really simple thing. Well, I'm not going to just get on a soapbox, but we have to buy car registrations like everybody else does. At least in Connecticut, municipal cars, they gave you plates. Just get a new car, just tell us what number goes on that, right? We didn't have to pay the registration, and there are a lot of fees that we are associated, or like right in your face, we're going to legalize a whole new business and we're going to tax the bejesus out of it with cannabis. And
You don't.
you don't get any.
That's right.
Like, throw a bone anyway. So that's the layout.
$200.
I don't know if we collected that.
The DMV doubled on the cost. I couldn't believe how much it cost when I went there. It was like $600.
Did we get money from cannabis?
I couldn't believe how much it was.
That seems.
I'm getting it to what.
The whole cannabis thing was a fight with VLTC because there's a lot of towns that didn't want it. And I don't know, last minute, the towns ended up getting burned on it. And so out of that 14% excise tax, nothing goes back to the town.
Right.
Okay, Ryan, do you know the logic of that, or what the discussion was at the time?
That particular part was just some political BS that BLTC kind of got punished. And that's the type of things that happen in politics. And so you would think that it would have made sense to give some sort of kickback to the towns, but it was a last minute thing. And that's what I was told. But so towns get nothing on the cannabis stuff, which is, I don't want to waste too much time on it here, but it's a fair amount of money that goes directly to the state, and the towns get nothing for having a business like that in town, besides having businesses in town.
I just point out when we have these discussions about taxation and the lack of fairness and the overreach of the state is Windsor receives somewhere around $6 or $8 million from Vermont taxpayers to pay for our schools. All right. So in a sense, we are a recipient of subsidized education because of wealthier towns sending us their money. Most people in Windsor get some form of homestead rebate. That is somebody else in Vermont paying some of your property taxes. So believe me, if you start saying, I want to pay less to the state somewhere, they're going to give you less in one of those programs. They're not going to be all generous and give the town more money for something else. But there is so much convoluted stuff that goes on with our taxation. And the rationale may have been good whenever it was created, but then it never goes away. But if we were on a position where Windsor paid for everything it did, we'd have no roads, we'd have a one-room schoolhouse, and I'm not advocating for it at all. But all I ever hear is, well, how come we don't get a grant to do that? I know since I've been here, we've gotten $10 or $11 million of grants. That's 2 or 3 years worth of our annual budget to fix the dam, to build our roads, to improve our sewer system, to upgrade our treatment plant, all the stuff that you never see. So I am in no way advocating for state and federal government and the way they spend money. I'm just saying, be careful what you wish for, because if they pull a rug out, we're doomed. Yeah. But happy thoughts. So what happens next for new person is next week we are going to vote on the warning. You're not going to, the select board is, but we are also going to vote on a budget. And the budget that gets voted on is how much money we will be authorized to collect through taxation to support the budget that you're talking about. So what I'm going to need for next week is that number that you want to see that the budget is. I can manipulate that during the meeting, but that's you telling me, no, I want this, no, I want that, and me changing the numbers on the fly. Before you know it, bad things happen. So you could take a straw poll to say, I think I could support a budget that increases this percent. Right, I said this is 8.3, the other one was 15, I said 10, pick a number, and I will craft the numbers to reflect the direction of the start. That everybody gets the vote.
So,
And you want us to email you, Tom?
Did you say, Bob?
Prior to next meeting,
Do we want to?
you want us to email?
No,
you?
no,
Or you want to do something like that?
I'd like you
or-
to do it now. It's a straw vote. It's not binding. I didn't go down this because what this is, like parts and supplies in a highway. I took 15,000 off. The reason that original number was in there is because if you took an average, the average is about what was there, but there was an outlier high year in there. But all of our equipment's older. It's likely that we will have an outlier on a different piece of equipment. But it's not written in stone. It's not a debt payment, for example. So this to me gave you an indication of the areas where there was money that could be taken from.
In the department, are you comfortable with these numbers? Or is that-
They are, it's like the police and fire full-time wages. Those are big numbers, but they're also, whatever they are, $800,000 in total wages. And that doesn't include full-time or part-time stuff. So the thought there is we budget to have full staffing.
Yeah, unfilled, yeah.
Yeah, we almost never have everybody on all the time. So I could do something like if somebody leaves employment, I can go to one of the chiefs and say, hey, can you wait 2 weeks, 3 weeks before you bring somebody in? There's room to play there. So, and kind of to their point, there's never been anything that a department head that really needed to have happen couldn't do. They manage within their budget line. They just change priorities. Do they really need new bunker gear? But no, they really need more something else. And that works out. My point is, some of these things are not going to work. So there's not 400,000 in savings here. There's some amount of savings here. The only thing that's concrete is if you vote to put less in the reserve fund and the capital fund, that's really going to happen. And that's why the other part's important.
yes, okay. I think what would be helpful in making this decision, Tom, would be some realistic on $100,000 per $100,000 property value.
Mhm.
What these differences actually mean. So what are we gonna pay between the 8.31, which is what this current document reflects, and the 10%?
Mhm.
How much money are we talking about per tax bill? I saw a chart that you sent,
A related question is, if I
and,
may,
oh, sure.
the school tax is not going up.
Right.
So do you have a ballpark of what a person's property tax will be for, with each increment of increase if the school is,
So if we say the school's flat,
Yeah.
then that's how the tax bill is flat, right?
Yeah.
So doing a quick back of the envelope thing, we do our looking,
It's up. Do you have the chart? I have it.
So if it's, so just say it's 10%, it would be a 10% increase of what we're paying right now, period.
right,
Plain and
and
simple.
if the taxes are reflected in, well, yeah, I mean, if you don't know, I mean, I don't know off the top of my head what my municipal side of my taxes are. I know it's too much. But if you look on the last page, it says tax required to support the budget, and it says $1.30. Okay? Yeah,
And that's based on the 8.31%, Tom?
right.
Okay.
So I think that fiscal 24 tax rate excluding outside agencies, that's $1.20. So that's a 10-cent increase. So that means you're going to pay 10 cents more for every $100 that your property is assessed at.
Okay.
So if you have we'll pick a $300,000 house, $250,000 house, $1 million house. Well, we'll do round numbers, say $300,000. And if you divide that by 100, you get 3,000 times a dime. That's $300.
Okay.
This is what I'm trying to get at. Because perspective by looking at this is, oh my God, it's $3 million. We're going to be paying $500. You know, it's not that much difference in money. Now, you based that on the 130 just now, right?
That was on a $300,000 house.
On a $300,000, $300 on 130.
Yeah, so,
Okay.
yeah,
So let's do it again, if you don't mind. And do it, if we go up 10% on, that would make 130,
like, we'll say 132,
133,
133.
Yeah.
Okay.
just to be clear.
All right. So then you're talking about $330.
The difference between having an 8.31% tax increase and a 10% tax increase is $30 on the tax bill.
Yeah.
Okay, so that we can understand. Because all this other stuff you can't.
And that's when,
I just want to know how much I'm writing a check for. Well, actually, I use the town website, but in theory, how much am I paying?
and that, once, when the rates are set, that information goes out, but to your point, it's helpful before you set that to understand what that means.
Right.
The part that, where I hesitate a little bit is we're not here in a vacuum. This isn't everybody getting their first tax bill. We're doing this in an environment where people really got nailed to the wall last year and they're already struggling. So
We're increasing it by $300.
So, right, and $300, believe me, sitting here outside the tax office, it's hard enough to come up with what they're making right now to do that. But again, the flip side is, if you as the board said what we want is the lowest taxes, we could get rid of all kinds of town services and our tax bills go, we could give everybody the half a tax bill what they have here. And I guarantee you, people will be screaming at the condition of our community, the lack of services, the lack of public safety, and all of those kind of things. So that's where do you find that spot? And the other way is, we could do a 20% tax increase, and we could expand all of those services, and there are enough demand out there for housing that everybody who put their house up for sale because they couldn't afford the taxes here, someone would buy it and pay it. But I don't think that's the kind of, community leadership anybody's interested in.
No.
I'm curious, when thinking of expanding the tax base, how long will it be until those nice new buildings that Wick is building start contributing to the tax base?
They will be on the tax pace, this year. Like, for this fiscal year, it'll probably be June or July. But how much do you think they're gonna pay?
Oh,
I
mean, you said they get tax breaks. They got tax.
Well, they
tax
get,
relief.
tax credits, that's federal.
Oh.
But, let me do my math.
But Tom, so it's a $13 million building, but where are they going to be assessed at? not $13 million, right?
maybe 4.
Yeah. The real value. Oh, close.
So we got $4 million building divided by 100 equals 40,000. So times, we'll say 1.3 equals, they will pay $52,000. So that's real money. That's real money.
Say they pay 46.
1 point.
No, that's,
and a half
the
points.
properties that Windsor Improvement Corporation currently owns, like the Goodyear property. Yeah.
So is that in the budget?
It is not.
Okay.
What will happen, I mean, that's the good news between now and then. The tax rates are all based on our current grand list value.
Yeah.
It always goes up a little bit. I mean, it's more, over a 10-year average, it'd be like 1/4%. It's possible that this year it goes up 1/2 or 3/4%. So when that goes up, what we're looking at here is like a worst case value. I think I said something around this is 8.3, maybe it'll end up coming out at 8 when the new grand list comes out. So in that way it gets factored in, but it's not baked in to say it's going to be 5. The other thing is we'll get the money. The grand list value that will be used to set the tax rate gets finalized in April. And then they forward to the state has them all going to do the school rates. We'll collect the tax on the building, but it won't be baked into the rate for the following fiscal year.
I mean,
But it'll be a little tiny gift to the town budget next year.
Yeah, no, it's good, and it'll be 25,000 more in the utility bills that come in. So it's a net positive thing, and that's the real answer to lowering taxes.
Yeah.
Is
Yeah.
I don't know, not
Build more.
that's
build more, and I
Build
have
more and
lived-
improve more.
I've lived in a lot of places. Usually my family or my parents' family would move into a new neighborhood where they built 1,500 houses. And, wow, what, I never appreciated that at the time, but gosh, look at that, 1,500 new houses. They built 2 elementary schools, a swimming pool and a high school. There's peaks and valleys. You bring in 1,500 new families, your road costs go up, your infrastructure costs go up, your school costs go up, all of those things go up. You try to do it when you got capacity in the schools and you can fit them on the existing roads and all that kind of thing. That's where we, look at this prison property, whatever you think of what it would be to develop that would add like nothing to our overhead. 10 minutes on a plow for the school, they say has got capacity as long as they don't all show up with 9th graders. That all of those things that you have to build for, we have built. Our wastewater and water systems are all ready for more development. But that's
outside of our control.
Yeah.
I think the town for 20 years been, or whatever it's been ready to do something with prison property, but it's the state that says no.
All right, Mr. Straw.
well,
No?
well, I just want to throw something out there before I throw a straw vote, before I make a decision. I'm looking at highway, I'm looking at recreation, real quick. I'm looking at contracted services with highway. I'm looking at recreation. Recreation, I can pretty much circle the whole thing, short of supplies, $500. I'm gonna tell you, my opinion, what I'm trying to say is, the recreation department is running on a shoestring. They're running so thin, and what they're doing, we get the 3 crew, we get part-timers coming in to do the pond. I don't want to, I personally don't want to see any meat sliced off that bone. If we come up with a weird number, a different number, then we have to start looking at to get to the 8.3 to 10. My personal opinion is I don't want to see anything happen with the wreck. If it happens with the wreck, I'm not going to stay, I'm a no vote. The wreck is running on shoestrings. We have contracted service, $10,000. Don't contracted services. I'm just giving you my opinion, Tom. The contracted services are services that the town require to keep up the services. So we don't see a lack of services. This is what we keep talking about. So for me to come up with any number saying 8.3 to 10, my request would be, as a member of the body, I want to see recreation left alone. I want to see the contracted service, because that's another human element that's going to be touched. And we have people that, even though part-time, they commit to us. I don't want to see that. I personally don't want to see that affected. That's my opinion coming up with the numbers if we are looking to cut or slash anymore. I don't like this at all. I don't like the recreation being slashed that much.
So how would the decision be made?
So this would not sit well with most select boards, but
You make the decision.
I make the decision with the department heads.
Right.
I get the sense of the priority,
I don't know.
but the objective here is to make cuts that the public doesn't see. And there's a lot of moving of money as a year goes by. So a lot of budget exercises in other communities are taking this budget and going, well, wait a minute, what do I see here in office supplies and the cops? You really need that much money? I don't think we need that much. You've never been in the police department ever, and you somehow have an idea how much they need for supplies. That's where it's not being cocky. It's if you don't like the numbers in the budget and they're not getting managed, well, you fire me, because that's what my job is to manage the staff. I agree with you that the rec department,
It's thin
it is thin.
and they supply so much community to the community.
That's another one of it's an uplifting thing.
Thank you.
To get to go to the rec center. And I don't think that's where you look to cut when times are tough. That said,
Thank you for that thought.
no, so I mean, that's what I'm saying. All of those
Okay.
comments come into play. These things are the things that can most easily happen with a high likelihood that the community won't see them individually. You aggregate the whole thing, something's not going to work right. But if you leave it to me and the department heads, you just tell me what you want as a tax burden. I am saying to you, you give me that number, as long as it's within here, I have a pretty good chance of providing municipal services at the levels people have expected to see.
I think you're saying that that the recreation department itself would not suffer at all as a result of these numbers on this page.
I got those from the rec director, saying that he could do
I'm
that.
gonna argue that on the director's behalf.
Okay,
Because
you go.
I see part of it is part-time wages, which means you're cutting the help, which means your full-time employees are putting more time in. I mean, I can see where no, because you're other part-time. Anyway, I would, no.
No?
They
If you
can't do
want a
more.
round number to get that started, I would go with Tom's 10, because when you did that whole explanation, and then when you put that the whole 30,
Yeah.
$300, $30, blah, blah, blah. In the grand scheme of things, at any rate, going up at any way stinks, but it's gonna happen inevitably. Like Cliff was talking about, insurance is out of our control, needs to go higher than us. And I don't like your story, Tom, where when you said, we can make it 8.5, but we'll be okay. No, we won't.
I
Down the
agree.
road, we won't.
I agree.
And you have to you either want the service or you don't.
But if it were 9 and not 10,
And you're running these numbers and they're a little lower, you're still making cuts though in places that,
maybe you could just say, we particularly think that the recreation department, even though they said they could make do with a little less, but we don't want that, right?
Well, let me just, this is a good example. I know Molly has some inside information. That makes it, but that reduction in part-time wages, for example, comes from the fact that we have never been busier with the summer camp programs, and that's where the part-time wages are spent. So part true, right? We were busiest during COVID. We could not have taken any more kids than we did during that time. Last year, however, the school started a program that is, I think, free and took a meaningful number of kids. So we had much fewer kids in the camp last summer, and that is reflected by a lower income on there. So this is where it gets into, are we guessing or are they hypothesis that we get these things? That the thought is, if we see a continued trend with fewer kids, we're not going to need as many part-time people in the summer. If it turns out that there is a demand, we will staff it to the degree it needs, and then we will either look internally, and not either, we will look internally for else we can save some money in that department, or externally where we could pull something from above. That's where I mean, you're not going to necessarily, I'm not going to go to
we
the
have
rec.
central main coming with housing, so how many families is that?
Yeah.
That is, I mean, most of the apartments are one bedroom, so I'm not expecting that's going to be a lot. But the point is, the department heads have a lot of working knowledge about what is going on. Why are we doing more ambulance runs or not? What's going on? In police, has there been law changes that are going to increase or decrease the potentially demand on the cops? Do we need more at night or not? That all of these things come in. And for rec, it was a trend downward in the number of summer kids participating. But if that is the case, that we see a spike back up, we have never said we're full. I mean, we were getting close to it during COVID, but we will always take kids and we will find something somewhere else. And that's why I'm saying overall, if everything breaks the wrong way, we will definitely run a deficit. Right now, as long as you put that other money into the savings account, we can weather that. And this will be 2 years in a row that we've been cutting, but this year's not as bad as last year was. So, and even last year, I recall having that discussion of this is going to take us multiple years to get out of.
Yeah.
We can't do it all at once. So that's kind of where the plan is. And that's where that contracted services, we only use that when something breaks that we can't fix within the highway department. We don't plan on breaking things. If we need to fix it, we're not going to leave a big hole in the road because contracted services got cut, but we're going to have to find something.
Wouldn't that be the gentleman that runs the sidewalk plow also? Is that considered contracted services? The gentleman that cleans here, is that considered or not?
Well, that contracted services for the cleaning comes under the building, town hall maintenance. The guy who runs the sidewalk plow, we put on the payroll for that, so that's included in the wages and highway.
Okay, thank you.
This is
That was
more
my
like
concern.
having to
That's
call
one
a
thing.
contractor out to say, we need.
A
piece of
grader
equipment.
broke, we gotta hire you
Right.
in to grade.
Yeah.
Okay, all right.
So where is the cost of the gym, HVAC stuff getting redone? Is that in our budget?
That is not in our budget. We
So
likely will
what's
not see a payment for that until fiscal 27.
26.
Like it'll happen in 26, and then when it's all finished,
Okay.
so that's what I'm saying, like, I think one of the first meetings was, there's other stuff coming. We have union renegotiations and all that. And even on that, the board voted to allow us to borrow money from the
Yes, it
special
did.
fund.
We did.
We're having a difficult time with that fund.
Okay.
We have old, like 60-year-old equipment is broken.
Yeah.
Putting brand new, high energy rated equipment in. Well, how much of that's going to make? The contractors are saying it should be about a 25% increase. Well, you need to give us a rating on the old one. It's from 1960. They didn't do that back then. Well, show us your energy report. We did that. Well, it doesn't really address that. That's where they wanted us to put a pellet system in and you can't fit it in the building. So I'm hoping we're going to get there, but right now we're not there. So
Okay, so that's not affecting this.
it's not affecting this
That
budget.
was the bottom line for me. All right, yes, Cliff.
I think, two factors. One, the increase that we're talking about, from the 8.3 to 10% isn't a really overly significant amount, but it is on top of what you paid last year.
Mhm.
The other thing is, everybody comes in when it comes time to vote and they go down saying, yes, 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 to everything voted separately. And they never stop to think how much that is on their tax bill. Never. And it doesn't reflect that here. So I have an interesting question if we want to break up the calculator down.
Mm-hmm.
What does that actually mean on the tax bill if they say yes to everything?
You mean ultimately, request for appropriation?
Yes, because they always say yes for
I know,
everything. So there's no reason to.
We got that.
No, they always.
Well, I mean, that's not, in our numbers here, those expenses are not.
No, I understand that. So
So-
when we're saying we're raising the taxes $330 over where it was, then you can, I think the average taxpayer is not understanding that it's not in there, but what does this actually mean? How much is this on your tax bill?
Yeah, well,
And then you can say, trade it off, saying, well, do you want this or do you want the rec department? You know?
If you vote yes on all the appropriations, this is what you're looking at for a new number. Is that kind of where we're getting to?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'd like to know what that number is. We don't have that number.
when
We do.
We do?
when,
First on our agenda today.
oh, well, no,
It is?
well, voting to allow them on the ballot is on the.
That's the,
Yeah,
yeah, not how much it is.
The amount.
Right, when we publish the tax rates for a vote in June, it says a tax rate of blank, this many cents is comprised of outside agencies. So at that point, like I can go back and look. I'm looking at just real quick. I took 400,000 out of the budget and it dropped at 7%.
Yep.
So if you put 200,000 back and just say it's going to be 3 to 4% is what it's going to add.
Yep.
Outside agencies.
So if we set the budget at 10%, you're saying it's going to be between 13 and 14%.
Yeah.
Okay. That's
With the appropriations.
what people have to understand.
So if you paid $700 last year and you add 300 to that, that's $1,000.
Correct.
And just my disposition in doing my job is I play nice with everybody, at least in public. So I don't want the library, for full disclosure, my wife is on the board, saying, well, we could have a nicer library if the town didn't spend so darn much money plowing the roads. And I don't sit here and say, well, we could have a lot nicer roads if we didn't have to give so much money to the library. And if the school would just stop doing what they're doing, you know, as elected officials representing the interests of the community, you say whatever you want. And you kind of have an obligation to let your positions be known, but my job is just to manage the money that I've given.
So my thought is, how can we educate people to understand when they vote what these, I mean, I just feel like Cliff said, you go down and you say, yes, 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 yes. How can we educate people to understand that they do have some discrimination about what they're, how to make that real? I don't know. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I just wanted to correct one thing.
I think, yes.
You don't hardly want to open that box because we don't want people voting. We don't want people going and saying, look what Tom just said, like, I
I
don't.
think we need to, I want to correct the point of what was said.
Yes, Cliff.
If your tax bill was $1,000 last year, you're not getting 330,000 added to it because your assessment is not, this tax bill is based on a property assessed at $300,000 and no help from the state.
Right.
That needs to be clear. So
Yeah.
your tax bill is not going up $330. I'll do rough math for you, probably looking at maybe $100.
Well, it's $100 per 100,000 assessed, roughly speaking. The municipal side. The other part of it is too, without like getting too far out, is round numbers, the outside agencies are around 200,000. Around half of that's the library. I'm gonna bet dollars to donuts. People want to give money to the library and that does not fully fund the library. They do a lot of other things to raise money. So I think we have a library board member speaking in the back there. But there's a lot of other agencies that are nickels and dimes, but
Yes,
the
they
big
are.
one is the library. So,
I just wanted to make the point, I brought that up to make the point that the numbers we're talking about aren't the final numbers. It's going to be the others, and it's going to add another few percent to your tax bill. So, you know, that's kind of the expectation. But the problem is that I find that a lot of times we as the town budget get blamed for the other stuff that's added to it because they look at it and say the taxes are too damn high. Well, you know, we have a lot of other things that we supply in this town that many towns don't have, and we choose to have them, and there's a good reason for it. And we want them, but they're gonna cost some money to have, and I think they're all pretty, you know, there's really, the reason they're all approved is because I don't think there's any unreasonable requests that come up, or expectations. Some of these have been level funded for so many years. You know, the increases they're asking now is because they haven't asked for anything. And what has it been, 5 years was the signing thing? So it's like, I think everybody just needs to understand where it's gonna come from. And that's again, for those watching at home. If there are any.
and I'll have an answer before town meeting, but my understanding is the way the homestead rebate works is that it's based off your prior year's income. So last year, there was a huge education increase, and I don't believe that there was a proportionate increase in the homestead rebate because the new tax value was compared, the value, it was a year lag. So this year is when the higher school tax is going to hit compared to the income. So I will get that information from the state, but it may be a disproportionately increased homestead rebate for those that it's all about the money, not about the percentages. Well, how much you want?
$1 million.
Ah,
Doesn't go further days, so.
yeah, sure. So you have a percentage?
I'm gonna stick with my shoot, you guys wrote that one stuff. I'll throw out 9.5.
9.5, go. Okay.
Sorry, I have.
Oh, that's good. Do we want to keep going in this vein?
Yeah.
So you're advisory, you can help the board make their decisions.
It's not all us.
Yeah.
Why? Want to cut it? Say, for example, the fire department. I feel the same way as everybody else does about the recreation. But I'm thinking of the Los Angeles fires and how they cut the fire budget and what happened. Anna wins. They cut that budget. So. It's a dilemma. I was feeling the other way, that if I hear you saying that really it's not going to change the services or the department's ability to do everything they do now, if you set an 8.3% budget. So I say, why not do that?
Okay. You're coming back next year though. So this is the long game. So when you say, look at that, man, look at, we ended the year with a surplus. I'm glad we cut all that down. Everybody should be as smart as me. That's where I want to be.
My first year, I could remember a previous budget committee member giving us a talk about fully funding the town. And I was very hesitant to do that the first year. And then we had other things happen where we had to make cuts. So we're catching up from 3 years ago. And that's why I'm saying, that has a lot to do with why I'm saying 10%.
So the reason that I am saying let's go with Tom's wise recommendation is because, what is it? So that the whole is, so that we can have more gain next year?
Oh,
But I guess hindsight is you're having wisdom. I'm having wisdom.
There's no right or wrong here, right? My position is the original budget comfortably provides all the services. This adjusted budget will run a deficit. I'm not sure where, because all of those things are best guesses. We will survive, but you can't keep doing it, right? So this is an improvement over last year's budget, but it's.
I guess another reason why I felt that way was because of the bump in the what people had to pay,
Mhm.
which also includes the school increase and that graph where
Mhm.
people are unhappy.
Okay.
So I think that is a reason to rein it in a little this year to help people feel like the town gave them a little something. The balance. You're concerned about balance. I'm concerned about balance too, but.
Okay. Paul?
I'm gonna go with, I'm looking at a number about 85,000 that I see that's realistic, that is not gonna put us in a potential deficit, a deficit next year. I'm looking at this and I'm seeing numbers and I'm seeing deficit, okay, with 8.5, I'm seeing it. So I'm gonna go with 10 to try to hopefully not go into deficit and, going into the next year. Hopefully not going through a deficit. If we do well, then we're gonna be kicking some money forward, but I'm looking at about $85,000. That's real. Everything else is not. I'll go with 10%.
I'm going up 10%, and the reason why is because last year's budget put nothing in the reserve fund and nothing in the capital fund. So this is the mentality of, well, if we have a problem, we can always just put it on our credit card kind of household budget. And that's pretty expensive to put money on your credit card in the long run. And essentially, even with this, we're not even close to what we normally put into it.
But
And then
what did we normally put into it?
we put in, Tom, we got the numbers up there. I can pull it, they're in here, but a significantly more of 100 and something into the capital fund, right? And
It's about 200,000 and just, I know it's been a long meeting,
right,
but one of the big caveats is, that the extra ARPA money gets put into the reserve fund as not a vote tonight, but as a vote when we vote for this. So that helps that a lot.
it does.
It doesn't help it a whole lot if we put it all in and then take it all out next year when we run a $200,000 deficit, but it's not putting us in a hole. It just makes us,
Right, but the capital fund, I mean, we're talking about, you know, these trucks from 1960 and equipment that we have that's going there, and when it breaks down, I'm looking at, you know, penny wise, dollar foolish. And if we continue to do that, we're going to get buried. And I don't want to see any tax increases, just like everybody else. Simple. I don't have to pay anything more. I'd like to see it go down by about 20%, but it's not reality. And so I look at it saying that I think if we have a great opportunity this year because of the fact that the school isn't going to slam us. And so with that increase, we're going to be about what we'd normally have for a tax increase, essentially, in the end. And I think it's, you know, to me, it's a prudent decision to make when you're looking at more than just this year. And that's my reasons for it.
okay. You're the chair, so you can go last. So who do you want to pick off the board?
I'm going to say Emma. What do you
Emma.
think, Emma?
I'm sorry, ask me that one more time. You said you want to kick me off the board?
No, so which do you want to pick off the board? Like we have all these Hollywood squares up there, no faces. So what kind of percentage do you want to see?
I mean, I don't want to be too vanilla and say, well, why don't we call it 9% and hope for the best? But
Vanilla is a very expensive spice, you know.
Yeah.
It kind of gets a short trip.
Be better with chocolate.
no, I think this is my second budget season, and I apologize for being a square on the board, Tom. But I think it doesn't sound like we can do anything less than 10%. Like all I have seen and heard is department heads that are, you know, shoestring that term has been used a lot this meeting, and I really don't see where that's incorrect anywhere. So I would like to say, to be a crowd pleaser, like, yes, let's keep it at 8%, but it seems like 9 or 10% is more realistic to not run a deficit. So that's where I'm at.
8, 9, or 10?
Yeah, sure. No, call it 10. I say 10.
Okay.
I'm a waffler. I'm sorry.
Ryan?
Tom, what's your ultimate recommendation on this? Where do you think we should be?
I've talked a lot, and I don't want to dodge bullets, but I keep saying I'm not the vision. I will manage the budget that's voted for, and nothing terrible will happen this year in any of them. So the more money I have to manage, the easier my job is. So I feel like I have a interest that's counter maybe to the vision of the board.
Yeah. So the email you sent out earlier, the reduced to the 8%, keeps us overall around a 4% increase. Is that correct?
Yeah.
And the 10 puts us probably a 5.5.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I guess that works for me. 10.
Kara?
Here's for your Hollywood squares.
So after hearing everything and seeing everything, this is always tough, but this is my third year doing this. And as hard as it is, I think realistically, I'm going to go for 10.
This will make my averaging a little easier.
Yeah, pretty good.
Want to ask Joe?
To this job.
All right, Madam Chair.
Mr. Major?
Oh,
Ask him.
ah,
I'm gonna go 10, because I think we're gonna have incidental expenses that we are gonna get blown out of the water by. Yeah,
For healthcare, and it's gonna happen again.
that'll be easy next year. No one will sell health insurance, so there we go. All right, that kind of comes out like a 9.95. That always sounds better than 10 anyway.
yeah.
Oh, all right. Well, taking that on official vote, I will be sending you stuff in advance. Look for it over the weekend. That give you a number.
Oh, wait.
All right.
All right. want to continue?
Democracy will continue, but the budget stuff is over. This town.
Okay, we need to consider approval of annual certificate of mileage. Yeah. And I haven't seen it.
It's in the,
Make a motion? Oh,
yeah, go ahead. This, I don't want to, it's boilerplate. Our mileage hasn't changed. We have to send it to the state and then they give us that highway grant based on the number of miles.
So you.
I'm gonna make the motion to approve, yeah.
I'll
Second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, let's vote. Emma, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Tara?
Aye.
I vote aye.
Aye.
Okay, so we passed that.
All right. And for the little fun fact that you can all leave with is we have 50 miles of roads, 4.13 miles of class 1, 5.3 of class 2, 24.3 of class 3. And there you have it. So 50 miles. If anybody wants to know, if they drove all over town, how long would that take them?
Okay, action item, town meeting 2025 request for appropriations, which is what we already touched on a bit.
All right. Then you have a hard copy and I will give you the motion here. All right, here we go. So this is provided by our Assistant Town Clerk Riley. First motion is a motion to approve ballot access for Windsor County Cemetery Association in the amount of 20,000. They have traditionally not been required to collect signatures. The board has voted that it's the same amount as last year.
Make the motion.
There's cemeteries out there.
I second. Do we have a discussion about that? No discussion? Okay. Emma, how do you vote?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Tara?
Aye.
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 Okay.
Okay, next is a motion to approve ballot access for Windsor on Air in the amount of $2,500. I believe that is a reduction from prior year. Is that correct, Paul?
It's correct because we just felt the budget. We wanted to cut and help everybody.
Thank you.
So
I'll make the motion.
My second. Discussion? Okay, Emma?
Aye.
Ryan?
Aye.
Tara?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. I don't have it. Is someone in that packet?
I don't have it either. I don't have it here in the hard copies. I got it on the email, but
I did it on email, but I don't have it in front of me. That's fine. I'm listening.
so that's,
The next is a motion to approve ballot access for the Windsor Public Library in the amount of $97,168. They are an organization that had collected signatures in the past, so they do not need that 5-year requirement. And Mike is gone, but it's the same amount they asked for last year.
Make the motion.
my second. Any discussion? Hey, Emma?
Aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Kara?
Aye.
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 Okay, and last, motion to approve ballot access for Rachel's Kitchen in the amount of $10,000. The board is being asked to do this because Rachel's Kitchen has submitted a petition with the required amount of valid signatures, but the petition did not have the address lines as required by state statute. So since it was non-conforming, the board will need to vote for this. This is an increase from 5 to 10,000.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second. Let's discuss. Any discussion? So why can we let this happen if it's not appropriate, correct?
I think Riley felt that it didn't meet the letter of the law, but it met the spirit. There were a number, she validated every signature as a Windsor voter.
She did,
So it just, the form was not correct.
but there's no false information on there.
Correct, yeah. That they have enough validated signatures. It's just they did not ask people for their addresses, which was a required part of the form. So the state would not accept it, but the board has the latitude to do that.
Do we understand why they're doubling their requests?
I do not.
Anyone else know?
Maybe it's because the cost of food it just has been rising. I don't know.
That didn't know, okay. Emma, how do you vote?
I apologize. I wanted to ask, do we know anything about their attendance? Like how many people attend it on average, or is this?
I don't.
Somebody can tell me I'm way wrong. There have been occasions where like our highway crew has stopped in there like a day when they're plowing or something like that. I believe there are a handful of regular attendees, and then there's some others that come and go, but I don't have a count on that.
Okay, heard. I would vote aye.
Ryan,
Aye.
Kara?
Aye.
I'll vote aye.
Aye.
They may be somebody to reach out to make sure that they come to town meeting night
Yes.
in person and explain their position.
Let the voters vote.
All right, and that are all the organizations that require action by the board.
Is it worth mentioning those that didn't request it if we do? Is that
I will, that's,
helpful or not? I don't know.
I
You want-
can. I mean, the ones who made it with petition are HRS, Historic Homes of Runnymede, Public Health Council, Senior Solutions, The Mover, that's $20,000, Special Needs Support Center, Mount Scottney Hospital and Health Center, Windsor County Mentors, and the Historical Society. They all met their petition requirements. The organizations that did not, all of them have been reached out to by Riley prior on multiple occasions. Green Mountain RSVP, they had normally asked for 500. They said that they were not going to do that this year. SEFCA, 3,500. Apparently they don't have the same footprint they used to have in Windsor, and they were not going to collect petitions. Visiting Nurse and Hospice, 17,500 that they had requested in the past. They are not. The Windsor Public
Why?
multiple attempts to reach somebody, left messages and they didn't get back. In the public library,
They
they,
have other sources of funding?
all of these have, well, not all of them, many of them serve multiple towns and they go through the same things. And then aside from the municipal contributions, they have other nonprofit funding sources. The last one, the library, aside from their operating fund that they asked for, they have a line item for a reserve fund for $10,000. They did not collect signatures for it this year. They will do so in the future, but
And Historic Homes of Runnymede, they didn't do it, last year they didn't get one in, did they? You contacted them? Is that the one we're talking about here? Historic Homes of Runnymede? They just didn't fill out, they didn't get their signatures in. There was a new director turnover or something, am I correct?
Yeah, there's been new staff.
yeah,
Yeah.
that could have been.
Because last year they didn't, then last year, okay. I was just
Yeah, 'cause they're
wondering.
the meals
That's,
that we
right, okay. Yeah, all right.
Hey, Couple of more things and we're done. Liaison reports. Emma, do you have a liaison report?
I do. Give me 1 second. I apologize. I reached out to Mara to see if there was anything she wanted me to mention, and she said that they are all doing their municipal ethics training. There's some things that they're planning for Women's History Month, and they're partnering up with the Windsor Historical Association to do some things for that. And she just wanted to say Jedi is there if y'all ever need anything, or we ever need anything rather. Thank you.
Okay, let's see. Tara, do you have anything new?
I do not.
Okay, and we just heard from Wick.
Yeah,
You wanna-
but I'm gonna throw something out there. We just heard from Wick, fantastic folks, and there's something that, I remember when I got on the board, it's something I talked about a long time ago, but it seems like there's actually something taking a little leverage, growing legs with Wick is, I remember back when mentioned something about, having on the 4th of July, we don't do fireworks, other towns do. What we're working on is hope maybe down by the new rail yard or the fairgrounds is, like community members, people go out and buy fireworks and you blow them off in your backyard. What we're trying to put together is community fireworks brought to a location, maybe have some vendors, get the town together, get some kid events going. And then when it gets dark I already talked to Chief about it, we can just have our own community firework display. We're concerned about high flyers if it's dry, but there's a lot of beautiful ground cakes that they call that are real fantastic. So that's something that me and Mike have been talking about and whatnot. So it's something that we're trying to grow a small gathering. So you don't have to go to these big towns with kids to see fireworks. You can go there, get a 10, 15-minute display and go home right in our town. So that's something we're working on with WIC right now.
I have a question. The Mount Scottney fireworks isn't a big town, but it's right next door. Isn't it great? Mount Scottney has this lovely fireworks and green stuff for place for running around and food and music. Isn't that our neighbor? Is that a bad thing to say?
Oh, no, it's a good thing to say, but you still have a lot of folks that just don't want to haul their kids anywhere and go. So it's like just a town gathering. Basically what we're trying to is building to just trying to get another community thing together. And then you have the fireworks, the kids can see it. You can just be right in your town, see it, go home. It's something we're talking about. I'm hoping it happens. Let's see how good it works out. And if it works out, it'll grow. And if it doesn't, it was a good effort to get community together. So we want, yes, Mount Scottney, great. I'm happy for them. But to me, community is right here as I want community in Windsor, our Windsor community to come together right here in our town and our downtown. So that's my thing. Yeah, I'm Windsor.
Emma?
I would just want to say that a 10 to 15-minute display, just as a person in town that has a young kid, would be perfect. I took my kiddo to a fireworks display at a local town and it went on way too long and he was way too loud for him and I thought he was going to lose it. So that sounds something that's the right size for Windsor. And that's really exciting to hear that y'all are doing that.
Cool. Thank you, Emma.
Yeah.
And I give you stink eye because from my office, and I say, well, why do we have to spend money on fireworks? Because Heartland's got great fireworks and Westland does a good job. That ain't Windsor.
Yeah.
You don't depend on those other towns.
We're Windsor.
God, we're Windsor. We get our darn fireworks. I thought, well, no, I've been to the other towns, incognito, of course.
I know.
They're pretty nice.
Okay,
Okay.
so legislative discussions. I have some information. Does anyone else have anything they want to share? No? Okay. I have, in everyone's packet that they received tonight, which eliminates everyone online, I guess. I went ahead and printed up, all of our legislators representing us and highlighted the committees that they serve on. Because I know that has been a question that's come up in the past. So you have a packet, and if you guys online want one, they'll be here, I guess, if you want.
They'll end up being, they'll end up being on the website. I'll put the information in the newsletter and they will be in this evening's information packet.
Okay, all right. So that clarifies who's serving on what committee at the state level.
Yeah.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And then the other thing I included was a bill, it's kind of in follow-up to our discussion about the Affordable Heating Act. There is a bill being introduced right now to repeal the Affordable Heating Act. And I just wanted to make people aware, since that's been a hot topic in our group. And it's also included in the packet. All right. We'll see where those things go. Any other legislative updates? Okay.
Yeah, I just want to touch base. One I'm tracking, there's a push to make the theft of a firearm a felony. And also, I believe there's a bill out there to increase the penalties of felons in possession of firearms in Vermont and to make it mimic federal statute.
Do you have any updates from any of those, or probably too early?
No, it's all way too early.
Okay.
I have a question for Sheriff. Is that okay?
Yeah.
Hey, Ryan, is there a committee on prisons? Like specifically, like if we want to, like, try to still shake trees on prison property?
Alice Emmons from Springfield sat on that. I think it's institutions.
Institutions, okay. Would it be corrections institutions or just institutions in general? Institutions, okay, thank you.
You should be able to find it somewhere.
I looked, I couldn't find,
All right. Do we need to sign orders?
I looked on the wrong spot.
You do,
We do. Okay.
but not enough votes.
Oh, true.
How about you do this? Why don't
I
you
can stop
vote?
by tomorrow.
You just take a vote to sign the orders, and I will leave them out, or somebody can stop by if you guys want to. It's just should be just a cover sheet tonight.
I'll do mine.
Okay. Do I have a motion to sign orders?
Actually, it doesn't look like there's any new ones in here since last week. There are orders, but these are ones that we only had 2 signatures off. That Paul, if you sign that, that will complete signatures required there.
What am I signing?
All the ones that you were reviewing online.
Okay.
Don't need it to sign. Okay. So while he signs that, let's do public comments for not on the agenda, for items not on the agenda.
Yeah, the meeting was too damn loud.
It was. Board member comments, Emma?
Thank you so much to the budget committee, and here we go. I'll see y'all soon.
Ryan?
Yeah, I just wanted to comment about the Border Patrol agent that was killed Tuesday afternoon. His name is David Maitland. And I just wanted to highlight the dangers that our law enforcement officers in the state face. And it's certainly becoming more and more dangerous. And again, I just wanted to mention that Border Patrol agent, David Maitland.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tara?
I want to say thank you to the budget committee for your continued work on this season's budget. Thank you, Tom, for doing all the behind the scenes work. And today we had a fire right up the street from my house, and it wasn't even your typical fire. There was a garage and a home that caught on fire, but the fire burnt power lines down. So there were actually live wires down. It was a huge mess, but our fire department and our police department, along with other fire and police departments, did a phenomenal job. And I think it was 16 degrees this morning when this all happened. And it's days like this and situations like this that just, I think, make us realize how fortunate and how lucky we are to have these services for our community.
Okay, thank you. Okay. I don't really have anything to add. I just appreciate all the hard work that's gone into this budget thing tonight. So we've really hashed it out more than I remember doing before. I'm glad. So thank you.
I'm gonna say with the budget committee, it was very interactive. That was fantastic. This committee is really hitting on cylinders that I've never seen before. It was my third budget doing this year, and I really appreciate the input. I appreciate the questioning and the responses, and how everyone's interacting. I think this budget year so far has been the most informative for the general public. Hopefully folks are watching. The questions have been more informative. I think we're giving as much information possible to the voters also. So it's been fantastic. Really great year this year. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to adjourn us at 8:55.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, Chair.
Another benefit to living